Hello dear students, myself CMA Padmaja Buzruk. I will discuss accounting standards. Go to study note number 5, accounting standards. I will discuss AS 15. AS 15 is on accounting for employee benefits. For the purpose of AS 15, an employee is defined as an employee who may be provide services to an entity on full-time, part-time, permanent, casual or temporary basis. AS 15 also includes directors and other management personnel under the definition of employees. So, the employee who provides service, whether it is on full-time, part-time, permanent, temporary, casual basis, is treated as employee, is defined as employee as per AS 15. It also includes management personnel and directors. AS 15 deals with all kinds of employee benefits, which includes short-term employee benefits such as wages, post-employment benefits such as gratuity, other long-term employee benefits such as sabbatical leave or other long-term service benefits. Sabbatical leave is rest or break from work, which lasts from 2 months to 1 year. Termination benefits. So AS 15 has classified employee benefits into four main categories: short-term employee benefits, post-employment benefits, other long-term employee benefits, and termination benefits. AS 15 was issued by ICAI and came into effect with regard to accounting period on or after 1st April 2006. The statement applies to benefit comprising of provident fund, superannuation or pension fund, gratuity, leave encashment on retirement, post-retirement health and welfare schemes, and other benefits provided by employer to employees, either in pursuance of legal requirement or otherwise, but does not extend to employer's obligation which cannot be reasonably estimated. For example, ex gratia ad hoc on retirement, which depends upon employer's wish and which is not included in the letter of appointment. Applicability of AS 15. Accounting Standard 15 is applicable to the following enterprises at any time during the accounting period. Enterprises having their equity or debt securities listed whether in India or outside India. The enterprises undergoing the process of getting their equity or debt listed. Banks including cooperative banks, financial institutions, enterprises undertaking insurance business, all enterprises including industrial, commercial, and business reporting enterprises having an annual turnover of more than 50 crores in the preceding accounting period based on the audited financial statements. Enterprises including industrial, commercial, and business reporting enterprises having borrowings including public deposits of more than rupees 10 crores at any time during the accounting period, holding as well as subsidiary enterprises of any of the above mentioned at any time during the accounting period. All the enterprises that do not form part of ones mentioned above under point 1 and have 50 or more person on an average employed during the year. There are however exceptions to such enterprises which can be referred to in AS 15 revised 2005. So in short, AS 15 is applicable to listed companies, whether they are listed in India or outside India, the companies or enterprises which are in the process of getting their capital as well as debt listed, banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, companies whose turnover is more than 50 crores in the preceding accounting period, and the companies whose borrowings, including public deposits, are more than 10 crores, or any holding or subsidiary company of the above. To all this, AS 15 is applicable. Similarly, if any companies which do not included above but who are having 50 or more persons as an employee on an average during the period, then to these companies or enterprises also AS 15 is applicable. However, there are certain exceptions which are given in AS 15 revised 2005. Post-employment benefits. Post-employment benefit consist of retirement benefit, for example, pension and gratuity; other benefits, for example, post-employment life insurance and post-employment medical care. Furthermore, these post-employment benefit plans are classified into defined contribution plans and defined benefit plans. So, defined contribution plans and defined benefit plans are classes of post employment benefits plans. There may be obligation on the part of employer either against defined contribution plan or defined benefit schemes. Now we'll see defined contribution plan. Retirement benefit is determined by contribution at agreed or specified rate to the fund together with earnings thereon. So, for giving retirement benefit, a contribution is made to a specific fund, and if these funds are invested, there will be some earnings on that, interest, dividend, etc., which is again reinvested. So, together with earnings thereof. Contribution, for example, provident fund, whether paid or payable for the reporting period, is charged to profit and loss statements. So whether the contribution is made to the fund which is paid or payable, or that means whether it is outstanding, it is debited to profit and loss account. Excess, if any, is treated as prepayment. Supposing if excess contribution is made than required, then this excess is to be treated as prepayment, that is prepaid expenses shown on the assets. After deducting the excess, it is to be shown on the asset side. Contribution does not depend on last salary drawn, number of years service, etc. So whatever contribution is made to the fund is not dependent upon number of years service the employee has rendered or his last salary drawn. Second is defined benefit plan. Amount paid is usually determined with reference to employee's earnings and or years of service. So amount to be contributed to the fund depends upon salary of the employee as well as his number of years service. Depending upon that, amount is paid to the employees. If the basis of contribution are determined, it will be treated as defined contribution scheme. So it will be treated as defined contribution scheme and not defined benefit plan. However, if employer's responsibility is subject to specified benefits or a specified level of benefits, it is defined benefit scheme. The extent of employer's obligation is largely uncertain and subject to estimation of future condition and event beyond control. Reliable estimate of benefit is done using actuarial valuation. As it is depend upon future conditions, employer's contribution, and future is uncertain, actuarial valuation is required. Accounting treatment for gratuity benefit or other defined benefit schemes depend on arrangement made by employer. First is no separate fund, that is out of non-specific own fund. Supposing if there is no specific fund to which contributions are made for retirement benefits, then provision for accruing liability in the profit and loss account for the accounting period is made. So whatever is the liability, provision for the liability is to be made. It is to be debited to profit and loss account. The provision is based on actuarial method or some other rational method assumption that all employees are eligible at the end of accounting period. Second is own separate specific fund established through trust. Sometimes there are specific funds to which contributions are made. These funds are established through trust. The amount required to be contributed on an actuarial basis is certified by actuary, and the actual contribution plus and a shortfall to meet the actuarial amount is charged to profit and loss account for the accounting period. Any excess payment treated as prepayment. So whatever is the contribution is to be debited to profit and loss account. Actuary is supposed to certify this. If whatever is contributed is lesser or short as certified by actuary, then the difference is also to be debited to profit and loss account. Shortfall is also to be debited to profit and loss account. But supposing if excess amount has been debited to profit and loss account, then it is to be treated as prepayment, that is prepaid expenses to be deducted from profit and loss account and shown on the assets or shown as assets. Third is fund established through insurer, that means insurance policies are taken. In the same manner as in B above, actuarial valuation may be carried out annually. Cost can be easily determined for the purpose of contribution as a charge to profit and loss or periodically, say once in 3 years, where actuary certificate specifies contribution on an annual basis during intervaluation period. So even if the contribution is made through insurer, that is insurance policies are taken, still that actuarial valuation is required. Actuarial valuation can be once in a year or sometimes it can be once in 3 years. If it is once in 3 years, then actuary's certificate specifies the contribution on an annual basis during intervaluation period. So for the 3 years period, actuary is supposed to specify the amount during this intervaluation period. Fourth is leave encashment is an accrued estimated liability based on employer's past experience as to such benefit actually availed of and probability of encashment in future, and therefore should relate to the period in which relevant service is rendered in compliance with section 128 accrual basis and AS 15. Leave encashment is if employee has not availed the leave, it will be to his credit, and at the time of retirement he can encash the leave, that is against the leave which is credited to his account he can get payment for those leaves or he can avail the leave. So it depends upon the employee's choice. So provision is to be made for this leave encashment, and this provision is to be made on accrual basis. Treatment of voluntary retirement scheme payments. Voluntary retirement VRS. Employees can opt for voluntary retirement scheme, that is before the date of retirement they opt for discontinuing the service, or employer themselves ask the employees to take opt for voluntary retirement scheme. Termination benefits to be paid irrespective of voluntary retirement scheme, that is balance in provident fund, leave encashment, gratuity, etc. So they are entitled to get all this PF, gratuity, leave encashment if they opt for voluntary retirement scheme. Termination benefit which are payable on account of VRS, that is monetary payment on the basis of years of completed service or for the balance period of service whichever is less and notice pay. Expert advisory committee opines in favor of treating the cost except gratuity which should have been provided for in the respective accounting period as deferred revenue expenditure since it is construed upon as saving in subsequent periods on some rational basis over a period preferably over 3 to 5 years. So except gratuity, VRS can be considered as deferred revenue expenditure and it is to be expensed off within a period of 3 to 5 years. However, the terminal benefit is to the extent these are not deferred should be treated as expenses in the profit and loss account with disclosure. So whatever has not been deferred is to be shown as expenditure in profit and loss account and disclosure is also required for the same. Disclosure under AS 15. In view of the varying practices, adequate disclosure of method of accounting for an understanding of the significance of such cost to an employer. So method of accounting is to be disclosed. Disclosure separately made for statutory compliance or otherwise. The retirement benefit cost are treated as an element of employee remuneration without specific disclosure. So it is necessary to disclose retirement benefit cost. Retirement benefit cost is to be treated as employee remuneration. No specific disclosure is required for that. Financial statement should disclose whether the actuarial valuation is made at the end of accounting period or earlier. Why? Because sometimes actuarial valuation is done once in 3 years. So it is necessary to disclose whether it is done at the end of accounting period or earlier, in which case the date of actuarial valuation and the method used for accrual period, if not based on actuary report, is to be disclosed. We'll see one illustration now. Illustration 7. Zero Bank has followed the policies for retirement benefit as under. Contribution to pension fund is made based on actuarial valuation at the year end in respect of employees who have opted for pension scheme. So contribution to pension fund is made on the basis of actuarial valuation. So it is as per AS 15. As per AS 15, contribution to pension fund should be made based on actuarial valuation. If there is any shortfall, it is to be debited to profit and loss account. If there is any excess contribution, it is to be considered as prepayment. A contribution to gratuity fund is made based on actuarial valuation at the year end. This is also as per AS 15. Gratuity fund contribution is also on the basis of actuarial valuation. Leave encashment is accounted for on pay as you go method. That means whenever the employee opts for VRS or whenever he retires, payment is to be made to him on the basis of pay as you go. No provision is made, no accruals are made. This is not as per AS 15. As per AS 15 for leave encashment also, provision is to be made on accrual basis. So first two are as per A and B are as per AS 15, whereas C is not as per AS 15. Comment whether the policy is in accordance with AS 15. So A and B are as per AS 15, whereas C is not as per AS 15. We'll see the solution. As the contribution to pension fund is made on actuarial basis every year, therefore the policy is as per AS 15, which is based on actuarial basis of accounting. As the contribution is being made on annual basis to gratuity fund on actuarial basis, the policy is in accordance with AS 15. As regards leave encashment, which is accounted for on pay as you go basis, it is not in accordance with AS 15. It should be accounted for on accrual basis. Now we'll go to next illustration, illustration 8. In the context of relevant accounting standard, give your comment on the following matter for the financial year ending 31st March 12. Increase in pension liability on account of wage revision in 2011-12 is being provided for in 5 installments commencing from that year. The remaining liability of rupees 300 lakhs as redetermined in actuarial valuation will be provided for in the next 2 years. So pension liability has increased because of revision in wages. So they have decided to provide it in 5 installments. After actuarial valuation, again 300 lakhs they are supposed to provide, and they have decided to provide it in next 2 years. This is not as per AS 15. As per AS 15, whatever is actuarial loss or gain, it is to be shown as income and expenditure immediately in profit and loss account. And pension liability also for current year, if it is for current year, it is to be debited to profit and loss account. If it is for prior period, it is to be shown as extraordinary items. So whatever may be, it is to be debited to profit and loss account as per AS 15. Now we'll see the solution. As per AS 15, the cost arising from an alteration in the retirement benefit to employees should be treated as follows. The cost may relate to current year of service or past year of service. In case of cost relating to current year, the same may be charged to profit and loss account. Where the cost relate to past years of service, this should be charged to profit and loss account as prior period item in accordance with AS 5. Where retirement benefit scheme is amended in a manner which results in additional benefit being provided to retired employees, the cost of additional benefits should be taken as prior period and extraordinary items as per AS 5. In view of the above, the method adopted for accounting the increase in pension liability is not in consonance to the provisions mentioned in AS 15. So whatever policy the company has applied to write it off in 5 years or actuarial liability in next 2 years is not as per accounting standard 15. As per accounting standard 15, it is to be charged to profit and loss account in that year itself. If it is additional benefit because of pension scheme amendment, then that is to be considered as prior period and extraordinary item, but to be debited in the profit and loss account immediately. Now we'll see IND AS 19, Indian Accounting Standard 19, accounting for employee benefits. Objectives. The objective of this standard is to prescribe the accounting and disclosure for employee benefits, how to account employee benefits, and what is to be disclosed, how it is to be disclosed. The standard requires an entity to recognize a liability when an employee has provided service in exchange for employee benefits to be provided in future. That means employee has provided benefits but he will be paid in future. It is to be shown as liability. This is nothing but post employment benefits, gratuity, leave encashment, provident fund, etc. And an expense when the entity consumes the economic benefit arising from service provided by an employee in exchange for employee benefits. So employee has provided services for the current year and he will be getting paid in the current period itself. It is to be shown as expenses. Employee benefits include short-term employee benefits, post-employment benefits, other long-term employee benefits, and termination benefits. It is same as AS 15. Short-term employee benefits, if expected to be settled wholly before 12 months after the end of annual reporting period in which the employee render the related services. So this is to be settled within 12 months from the annual reporting period, that is within 12 months of the balance sheet. Those are known as short-term employee benefits, wages, salaries and social security contributions, paid annual leave and paid sick leave, profit sharing and bonuses, and non-monetary benefits such as medical care, housing, cars, and free or subsidized goods or services for current employees. Next is post-employment benefits such as the following: retirement benefits, for example, pensions and lump sum payment on retirement like gratuity, provident fund, etc., and other post-employment benefits such as post-employment life insurance on post-employment medical care. Next is other long-term employee benefits such as the following: long-term paid absences such as long service leave or sabbatical leave, jubilee or other long service benefits, and long-term disability benefits. So these comes under other long-term employee benefits. Jubilee is nothing but award given after completing certain years of service. Next is termination benefits. Termination benefits are employee benefits provided in exchange for termination of an employee's employment as result of either an entity's decision to terminate an employee's employment before the normal retirement date, that is company will terminate his employment before the retirement date, or an employee's decision to accept an offer of benefit in exchange for the termination of employment. Employee benefit include benefit provided either to employee or to their dependents or beneficiaries and may be settled by payment or the provision of goods and services made either directly to employees, to their spouses, children, or other dependents or others, such as insurance companies. An employee may provide service to an entity on a full time, part time, permanent, casual, or temporary basis. For the purpose of this standard, employees include directors and other management personnel. Now we'll see comparison between IND AS 19 and AS 15. IND AS 19 covers employee benefit arising from constructive obligation. Constructive obligation is an obligation to pay that arises out of conduct of employee rather than contract. Constructive obligation need to be shown as liability in the balance sheet. It occurs from past conduct or past behavior. AS 15 does not deal with the same, that is constructive obligation. IND AS 19 includes whole time directors as its employees, whereas in AS 15 employee includes directors. IND AS 19 deals with situations where there is a contractual agreement between a multi-employer plan and its participants that determines how the surplus in the plan will be distributed to the participants, whereas AS 15 is not dealing with multi-employer plan. Multi-employer plan is nothing but various lot of employers, number of employers, they join together, they come together and they contribute to a specified fund. They invest it and their employees get benefit from this retirement benefit. But if there is any surplus, how it is to be distributed, that is also decided by the participants, whereas AS 15 does not deal with multi-employer plan. In AS 19, as per this entity to involve a qualified actuary in the measurement of all material post-employment benefit obligations. AS 15 same is applicable entity to involve a qualified actuary in the measurement of all material post-employment benefit obligations. So as per Ind AS 19 and AS 15, both require actuarial valuation for post-employment benefits. Financial assumptions. As per Ind AS 19, financial assumptions to be based on market expectations at the end of the reporting period, that is balance sheet date, for the period over which obligations are to be settled. So for deciding obligations to be settled, that is retirement benefit, post-employment benefit, financial assumptions are to be made and they are based on market expectations. Whereas in case of AS 15, no clarification is given. On what basis post-employment assumptions, financial assumptions are to be done. No specifically clarification is given in AS 15. Ind AS 19 requires recognition of actuarial gains and losses in other comprehensive income, both for post-employment benefit, defined benefit plan, and other long-term employment benefit plans. The actuarial gains and losses recognized in other comprehensive income should be recognized immediately in retained earnings and should not be reclassified to profit or loss in subsequent period. So as per Ind AS 19, actuarial gain or and loss to be recognized as other comprehensive income immediately in retained earnings. Whereas in AS 15, actuarial gain and loss is to be recognized immediately in the profit and loss account as income or expense. In this particular video, we have seen AS 15 accounting for employee benefits, Ind AS 19 accounting for employee benefits, and comparison between Ind AS 19 and AS 15. Thank you.